Hey, welcome back. It's a Money Monday edition of Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We are at the Newsmax downtown studios here in the Question Tequila studio. And we are well fortified today with plenty of our sponsors' goods on the table. The Dow Jones is well fortified today, up just about 100 points. Peaked its head above that 27,000 number, which has been a key indicator. As I've been mentioning to you, some stabilization above 27,000, some good news on the geopolitical front with the trade war with China could rocket this market to way higher numbers. The president continues to peck away at the chairman of the Federal Reserve, so we may even get some relief there on the Fed side. And Bitcoin, as I mentioned, we're covering it wall to wall. We have our team down at the Litecoin and the CryptoCon conferences in Vegas, where all the cool kids in crypto are hanging out this week. And Bitcoin is all the rage this week with, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I thought there was an international manipulation going on. When some big institutional players want to buy Bitcoin, they tend to lay on it and smack the price down so they can establish a position. That happened. I also added to my own personal position at 7,900. And as we speak right now, Bitcoin at 9,300. Raging and above 10,000 is going to be really, really good news. Better news for us is joining me to kick off this second hour and staying with me for most of the second hour is Carole Crist. Carole Crist is the former First Lady of Florida. She's the founder and CEO of CLC Global Advisors. They're a consultancy firm with offices in New York and Miami, and they're specializing in impact investing. She also served as Governor Charlie Crist's campaign director, fundraising millions for his congressional bid and overseeing his transition into federal office. So, Carole, thank you so much.
Thank you so
You're
much
so
for having
well-rounded. You're a global advisor. You've been at the forefront of statewide races with Charlie Crist. Mm-hmm. You've been in a federal race when you ran for Congress. You raised millions. You know the whole gamut. You're like a sayer of all, but I know you don't want to go too deep into the Bitcoin and blockchain stuff, but it does seem to me that globally, with President Xi coming out over the weekend and saying that China was going to embrace blockchain, mm-hmm. which is the underpinning of cryptocurrency, mm-hmm. it does seem that maybe we're getting a little more global adoption.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
I would say that is absolutely the case. I think that all the signs and indicators thus far, certainly in the last several years, this has been in motion for the last few. This is where it's heading, and people have to recognize this is about the next generation and millennials and what they want, what they need, and given their experience with the global economic meltdown and the failure of the financial system globally,
that's right.
They're very, very reluctant and very. They don't have a whole lot of faith and trust in institutions and banking institutions. Therefore, they want more of that freedom, flexibility, and the whole concept of blockchain is based on trust.
Right, and a lot of these kids that are millennials now, mm-hmm. Back in 2008, 2009, when the home market was collapsing, people were getting foreclosed, people in banks and Wall Street and all those residual businesses were losing their jobs. These kids were like 12. You know what I mean? They were like 12 and 13. And they've been through probably a pretty traumatic time in their life when their parents were maybe losing their jobs or losing their house and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. So it makes sense that these younger people, they want something a little cooler. They don't want to go through the same things they saw their family going through. And I think the whole idea of, my kids, my daughter Victoria is 20, my daughter Ava is 17, my son John is 13. And all they want to do is look in this thing right here. They just want to look at the phone, and everything they need is on the phone. And I get it. Mm-hmm. But I think the kids also love the idea that their money's in their phone. They don't have to carry anything but their phone.
I think they want their independence, and I think that's the next generation. I also believe they want to eliminate intermediaries. They resent excessive fees. They don't like rules, restrictions, and things to the extent that they can control their own destiny. Yep. I think that's where their interest lies. They are the consumers of the future. No doubt. And their metrics and what they value and what matters to them, that's global business better pay attention because they have the power to decide. And today with social media and the platform for influencers, they can do a lot of good. And ESGs, as you know, as a metric, is extremely important to the next generation. So.
And typically folks like us, Republicans, kind of conservative, we would be against regulation. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want excessive regulation. We want free markets and capitalism and all that good stuff. But here in the U.S., it seems like the Securities and Exchange Commission is starting to set at least the four corners of regulation, which I think is helping institutional adoption. Like, the institutions want to see some rules that are hard and fast first. So on the younger kids level, the peer-to-peer on the phone is great, but I think on the institutional side, the bigger firms don't want to jump in until they know there's at least some regulatory agency looking at it. I don't know, what do you think about that?
Absolutely, but I also think it's a threat to the system. Any kind of disruption of industry for profit, you can expect. That's why my motto is all things are politics.
Yeah.
Everything is about a campaign, whether it's in the private sector or the public sector. And you have to be prepared. When you want to disrupt the status quo in the name of innovation and progress into the future, you must expect that. And I think they know it's coming. They want to sort of slow it down. I don't know how much they can, but this, Bitcoin being the most prominent cryptocurrency, as you
the most adopted at this point.
The most adopted, the most, what I would say, without any disrespect to other ones, the most credible at this time.
I'd agree with you.
I think that is going to be the barometer of what is to come going forward. But I also think there are great opportunities for other digital currencies to come forward and be adopted in the near future.
Most of the time, as you know, the establishment fears anything new, right? They want to. Their first instinct is to smush it, and I really believe the bank lobby is behind that, because the banks know these merchant processing fees where they charge you 3% to use your credit card, and they charge you $35 for an overdraft, and they charge you $2 to get your money out of an ATM. With Bitcoin, it makes peer-to-peer transactions.
Sure does.
I call that rent-seeking behavior. They're just sitting there sucking the blood out of these transactions. And at the end of all days, I think the banks realize that this is an existential threat to their bread and butter businesses.
Well, they're going to have to adapt and find other ways to make money and be creative. And the fact of the matter is, they take a different kind of oath of office. You have to understand the point of view and meet people where they are and their perspective and why they do what they do. For example, I'm not going to name names, but CEOs of major banks, for example.
Name names.
I'm not going to. I'm going to stay like Switzerland for today. But they are fiduciaries. They have a fiduciary responsibility to maximize shareholder value, and that's tied into earnings. And protecting their lines of revenue and profit centers is part of their duty and obligation, because if they fail to do so, guess what? There's someone right over here who's going to line up and take their job gladly with their big salaries and stock options and so on.
Golden parachutes.
You got it.
And somebody's going to come in and say, you're fired.
Well, we got to bring people to the table. Yeah, you're fired. You're right.
Well, so, Carole, I want to thank you. You're going to hang around for a little bit, right? Carole's going to help me get through this second hour, and I need all the help I can get, trust me when I tell you. But Carole Crist is here. She's going to hang with me for a little bit. We're going to talk you through hour two. And coming up next is Drew Taylor and Ben Semshi. They are down at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, and we'll give you all the great things that are going on down there right after this. You're watching Liquid Lunch. Quick break. Back at you.